Okay, hi guys. So in this session, we'll discuss on function modules. In the last session, I explained you what is modularization and what are the different modularization techniques available. So function module is one of the modularization technique. The last session, what we have created subroutines and include programs, right?
Include.
So how
Yes,
function modules and include programs are different? Include programs cannot accept any input and return any output. But function modules can accept the input and can return the output. Okay. But subroutine can accept the input. Subroutines can accept the input and return the output. But they are local to only the same program. Wherever you created the subroutine, you cannot call subroutine in other programs, right? But function modules can be called globally, can use in other programs too. There are certain other advantages of using function modules. We'll see. So what is a function module? Function modules are reusable blocks or reusable functions. Okay, in SAP ABAP. So these can accept the input and return the output independently. So function modules can execute independently. Include programs can execute independently.
no,
Subroutines can execute independently. No. When they are part of the program, they will execute. Okay, subroutines are function modules. You cannot independently execute subroutine or a function module. When you added it to the some executable program, so whatever the code available in those subroutines or include programs will be executed. Okay, but function modules can accept the inputs independently and return the output. Okay, so to create a function module, what is the transaction code?
yes, it's
SE37.
37.
SE37 is the transaction code to create a function module. So to create the function module, we need one object. That is the prerequisite object. That is function group. What is that? Function group. We need a
Function group.
function group. So what is this function group? By using this function group, we are going to group related function modules. Related function modules. For example, sales related function modules, we are going to save in one function group. Finance related function modules, we are going to save in one function group. Purchasing related function modules, we are going to save in one function group. So by using this function group, we can group the related function modules. We can group the related function modules. And all the function modules in the function group will access common memory or common data. Okay. Clear what is the use of function group?
Yes,
So function group contains group of related function modules. So we can group multiple function modules into one function group. And these function modules shares global data of the function group, common data of the function group. Okay. So when you call one function module of that function group, when you call one function module of the function group, all the rest of the function modules in the function groups also loaded into the session. That is slight disadvantage or performance wise. That is the disadvantage of function modules. When you call only single function module of that function group, rest of the function modules also will load, but they are not going to execute, but they will be loaded into the session. Okay, and they share the global data of that function group. Clear?
yes, sir.
So what is a function group? Function group contains group of function modules. Simple.
Related
Function group contains group of function
function mode.
modules. Any function module, usually we save related function modules related to one particular functionality. Okay. So whenever you create a function group, right, it will automatically create a program in background. It will automatically create program in background. You don't need to do anything. Okay, it will automatically create the program. If you observe here, let's assume this is the function group. So what are the programs it is generated? Include programs. You're already familiar, right, with include programs?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
So one include program for declarations, data declarations, right? One include program for data declarations, and here include fm1, fm2, fm3. Each include represents one function module. Okay. So each include represents one separate function module. So fm1 function module 1, one include will be automatically generated. For function module 2, other include will be automatically generated. Function module 3. Similarly, how many function modules you assign to this function group, those many include programs will be generated in the function group. Okay, you don't need to write anything. It will automatically generate whenever you create the function module and assign it to the specific function group. Okay, clear? So what is the prerequisite to create a function module?
Function group.
Function group is the prerequisite. What is a function group?
Related function
Group
module.
of function modules.
Group of related function modules.
Fu-
Okay, so all the function modules in the function group will share the common data. Okay, clear? Now, so for a function module, it can accept the input, right? And it can return the output, right?
Yes,
So
sir.
Yes, sir.
for that we have provided with different options. Let's see it in the system. Now tell me, what is the transaction code to create the function module?
SC37.
SC37.
37.
This is the transaction code. Now, so do we need to create a function module every time, or is it only for modularization? There are lot of standard function module. There are lot of standard function modules provided by SAP to use the standard functionality. To use the standard functionality, you don't need to create a function module every time. There are a lot of standard function modules available in the SAP system, which are designed by SAP. If our functionality required any function module, you don't need to go and create it. First check for existing function modules. Is there any function module already available that is suitable for my requirement? If that is available, use it. Otherwise, create your own function module. Okay, create your own custom function module. For example, just search for any of the function modules. All these are standard function modules. All these are standard function module. You can search with different keywords to find any relevant function module. Let me search some function module so that I can give you an example of standard one. SAP ABAP function module to find the difference between two dates. So this is the standard function module. This is the standard function module available in the system. What is the use of this function module? To find difference between two given dates. Okay, go to attributes. So it's in German. Most of the standard function modules you can find these descriptions in German language. Okay, so what is the use of this function module? SD underscore date time difference. It is to find difference between two given dates, right? So I told you, right, function module can accept the input independently and return the output. Just to test that, click on this test or click on execute. These are the inputs, import parameters. Import parameters are for inputs. Provide the date. We'll provide some date, 2023, and I'll provide the current date, 18/09/2023. Time, I'm not giving any time. Let it be 0. Now execute. Why it is 0? Date difference 0, time difference 0. Let me provide some time, date also, time also. What is the difference? What is the difference between these two given
260.
dates? 260 days. Okay, 260 days is the difference between these two given dates. Do we need to do any calculation here? Do we need to write any custom code to find this calculation?
No.
No, right? So we can simply use
No.
standard function module provided by SAP. Similarly, SAP has provided many function modules for different functionalities to create the sales order, to create the purchase order, to change the sales orders, to change the purchase orders. Similarly, to read sales order data, to read purchase order data. So we have a lot of function modules provided by SAP. If any standard function module is suitable for your requirement, you don't need to do anything. Just go and reuse it. Okay. But when your requirement is not suitable for any of the standard function module, what you need to do? You need to create a custom function modules. But in this S4HANA environment, we are not going to create any custom function modules, but we are going to create class methods. Okay, but in very special cases, we go for custom function modules in these days. Okay, because function modules follows which method, which programming approach? Function modules follows which
C,
programming approach?
C
Procedural,
and Python. Yes.
procedural programming approach. Procedural programming based on functions. Class methods follows object oriented
Object
programming.
oriented. Object oriented.
So in these days, like mostly we are going to create a custom class methods, not the custom function modules, but still in some cases we need to create function modules. I'll, I'll explain when we go for a custom function modules, but since we need to understand the concept of function modules, we are going to create different custom function modules. Okay. But when you are familiar with class methods, you can start using class methods only. So let's observe this function module. Let's observe this function module first. Click on display because we cannot change the standard function modules. Observe different tabs here. Observe different options here. Attributes. What you can find in the attribute? Function group. It is assigned to V56G function group. Okay. This is one function group. So this function module is assigned to this function group. And this is the description of the function module. So the very important thing, what are the different types of function module? Processing type, different types of function modules. It is very important interview question as well. What are the different types of function modules? Regular function module, remote enabled function module, and update function module. What are the function modules? regular function module, remote enabled function module, and update function module. How many types are there?
Three
Three
types.
types of function modules: regular, remote enabled, or RFC, remote enabled or RFC, remote function call. We can also call this second function module as RFC, remote function call, and update function module. What is normal function module? Normal function module can be called only within the same SAP system. Within the same SAP system. For example, if you are in 2022, if you are in 2022 server, you can call this regular function module or normal function module. Regular or normal. Only you can call within the same system. But what is the other function module? RFC
Remote.
or remote function call, remote enabled function module. Remote enabled function module or RFC can be called in other SAP systems also. For example, you can call uh, RFC function module in 2021 to access the data from 2022 server. Okay, you can create a remote enabled function module and you can call that remote enabled function module in 2021 system to access the data from 2022 system, right?
Okay.
Also we can call that in 2022 system to access the data from 2022 system. So remote enabled function modules can be called in
Other
other
systems
SAP
also.
systems, other SAP systems. Okay, but normal function module or regular function module, regular function module
Mhm.
can be called only within the same SAP system.
Same as it is.
Okay, and what is the third type?
Updated function.
Update function module.
Not updated, update function module. Okay, so when we use update function modules is when we are updating tables, database tables, when we need to maintain some consistency in updating database tables correctly. So for example, we need to insert the data in all the tables. For example, we are inserting data into four tables. We are inserting records into four tables. But we need to make sure we need to insert the records when all the four tables insert is successful. When all the four tables data insertion is successful, then only we need to create data in all four tables. If there is any one failure, we should not insert in any of the tables, right? So in that kind of scenarios, right, we use update function modules. We use update function modules. So normal function modules will execute immediately. Remote enabled function modules or RFCs will also execute immediately, but update function modules will execute only after commit work. So in SQL, we use commit work statement to commit the database changes. So I'll explain in detail later, but for now, please remember update function modules will execute after commit work statement. So this is to make sure all the database operations are successful. Then only we are going to insert the data into tables. Otherwise, we are not going to do anything. Okay. So regular function module or normal function module. Don't confuse. Regular or normal, remote enabled, and update function module. Three types of function modules. It's a it's a very important interview question. Now it contains who created it and who changed it. The program, this program is nothing but this function group program, which is generated for the function group. If you double click on the function group and go to the master program, what you can find here? Top include, top include, and function modules. Double click on this. in this XX include, right? This is for list of function modules. Double click on this. So each include represents one function module. So this is our function module, right? The function module which we use to find the difference. This is the
Yes,
include
good
program
time.
that is generated for this function module. Similarly, each function module represents one include program. Import. What is this? Import. What is the use of import? By using import parameters, we can pass the input to the function module. We can pass the input to the function module. What are the inputs here? Date 1, date 2, time 2. So these are the inputs, right? We provided to find the difference. We provided the
Yes,
date
sir.
and the other date to find the difference between these two dates. What is the type? What is the type of this importing parameter? Import parameter date D. This one T, time. Date 2, date. Time 2. What is the type? Time. Okay. This is to pass the inputs to the function module. What is export? What is the export? Is to return the output. Export is to return the output. Okay. So here it is returning the output difference date like number of days difference. What is the type? P, packed decimal. Time difference and earliest. Okay. What is the use of export parameter? To return the
Displaying.
output. To return the output, not to display, but to return the output. Okay. That is export. What is changing? Changing parameter works as import and export, combination of import and export. We can pass some data and we can update that data. We can pass some data and we can update that data by using a changing parameter. Okay, clear? It is combination of import and export. When we use changing parameter, when we need to pass some data as input, and we should be able to change that data and update with the new value. At the time we use changing. If we use import to pass the input, we cannot modify the data of import parameter. We cannot modify the data of import parameter. Please remember that. We cannot modify the data of import parameter. Okay. But changing parameter, we can pass the input and update the output. Tables. When we use tables, when we need to pass internal table data as input, or when we need to return internal table data as output. So which parameter we can use to pass the tabular data, internal table data as input? Tables. But in these days, tables are outdated parameter, obsolete parameter. So we can use import and export parameters itself to pass the input of internal table and to return the output as internal table data. But tables also we can use, but this is outdated. Okay. But the primary functionality of the tables is to pass the internal table data as input or return the internal table data as output. That means multiple records, more than one record. Okay, clear? But if you observe any existing standard function modules, you can still find they are using tables parameter to pass the internal table data as input or return the internal table data as output. But in these days, in recent times, we are not going to use tables because that is a outdated parameter. Okay, we can use import and export itself. Next, exceptions. What is exception? Exceptions are used to raise the errors when something wrong in the function module or when something wrong in the code. What you can do, you can raise a exception. Here we have one exception, invalid date time. If you pass invalid date time, it will raise one exception, invalid date time. Like that, you can define multiple exceptions here. What is the use of exceptions in the function module?
To
To
raise
raise
the
the
Raise
errors.
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 To raise the errors. Okay. So these exceptions will be handled using sy sub rc. Sy sub rc. Okay. So you can handle these exceptions using sy sub rc. For example, how many exceptions are here? Only one exception, right? If
Uh,
something wrong with the data or function module, if it is raises this exception, then in the calling program, what is the sub rc? Sub rc equal to 1. If there is second exception, sub rc equal to 2. If there are four exceptions, if you raise the fourth exception, at the time sub rc value will be 4. Okay, we'll check that in the program, don't worry. But exceptions are used to raise the errors in the function module. Source code. This source code here, we actually write our logic. Okay, write our logic. This is our logic. They modularized the source code using which one? Subroutine.
Subroutine.
Subroutine. Within the function module also we can use the subroutines. Okay, we can use within the programs or within the function modules. Okay, we can call the subroutines. Here in the function module we are calling the subroutine. We are using the subroutine. Using in the subroutine, right? What is using? Using is used to pass the input. Okay, using parameter is used to pass the input. It is passing date 1, date 2, time 2 as inputs. Okay, if we double click on this, you can find the form and end form. Okay, here they have implemented the actual logic. How they are raising the exception? Rise using rise keyword, we can raise the exception. Okay,
Exception.
we can raise the exception using rise keyword. So import parameter is to pass the input, export parameter is to return the output, changing parameter is combination of import and export. We can pass the input and return the output. Tables parameter is used to pass the internal table data as input or return the internal table data as output. Exceptions are used to raise the errors in the function module. Source code is to implement the function module code. Okay, now let's call this function module in our program. How to call function modules? Let's create a sample program and then we'll create one function module. I'm creating an executable program. I'll create in the local object. For this function module, what are the inputs for this function module? Date 1, date 2, time 2, right? There are two date parameters, two time parameters. Let's define two date parameters. Let me define parameters p underscore date type d comma p underscore time type d. I'll do one thing. I'll use these parameters to pass the start date, but for end date I'll use the current date by using system variables. Okay, now I have a selection screen, right? How can I modularize this selection screen inputs? I'll create one include program. Just observe, I'll cover include programs concept also. Underscore top for top declarations. I'll use one include programs to modularize the selection screen. I'll keep the selection screen inside this include program. Local object, activate. Okay, it is already. First we need to delete it from the main program. So I'll delete it from the main program. So I modularize the selection screen using one include program. If you want, you can add the validation also. What is our requirement? We need to calculate the difference between two dates, right? Given date and the current date, right? For that, what is the function module available? This one. Go to pattern. How to call the function module? Here, go to pattern or control F6. Go to pattern or control F6. Place the cursor wherever you want to call the function module. In which line you want to call the function module. You can also find here. You can also find the function modules here using F4. S4 date difference. This is the function module. So I'm calling it. What are the inputs for this function module? What are the inputs for this function module? Start date, some date, t underscore time, and for current date I'll use sy-datum and sy-uzdit. Depends on your requirement. You can also define two other parameters and pass here. Okay. Now observe what are these parameters in function module. This is is the parameters are importing or exporting? Import, right, in the function module level. But here these are called in the exporting section. Okay. But here if you go and check in the function module, actually these are part of import parameters. But when we call the function module, these are in the exporting. Okay. And what are the export parameters? Date difference, time difference, and earliest. Three parameters are there. These are part of importing. These are part of importing. Okay. Now, so we are passing the inputs, right? We are passing the inputs. Let's observe one thing. Are these inputs optional or mandatory? Are these inputs optional or mandatory inputs for this function module? Go to import. Are these optional or mandatory inputs? Is there any parameter with optional checkbox? Is there any parameter with optional checkbox?
No.
No. That means all the four parameters are mandatory. All the four parameters are mandatory. For example, don't pass any parameter and execute the function module. So it should raise exception. Okay. So all the four parameters are mandatory. What is the exception it is raised? Invalid date type.
Date.
It is raising the exception. But we are passing the inputs. We are passing. If there are any if there are any optional inputs, you can skip them if you don't want to pass. Okay. If there are any optional inputs, but if there are mandatory inputs, you should pass. Now go to the export. Now we need to return the data, right? We need to return the output, right? What are the parameters? Those are returning the output. This one, these three parameters, right? Now how to return the value in the calling program. Now we are in the program level. It is returning the output, but we need to handle that value, right, in the program. For that, what we need? We need one data object to handle the data which is coming from function module, to hold the data, to save the data which is coming from the function module output. We need one data object, nothing but variable, work area, or internal table. Now tell me, is this a variable, work area, or internal table? Is this a single value output or multiple values are there in the same record? It is just a single value, right?
Single. Yes.
What is a suitable data object? Variable, work area, or internal table? Which one is suitable here?
Variable.
Variable is fine. Okay. What is the type of this variable? P. Packed
Packet
decimal.
decimal.
Now define one variable, data, lv underscore days type P. These are optional. Like if you don't want the other two outputs, you can just comment them and pass only this one. Okay. If you don't want remaining two outputs. For example, if you want time difference as well, define one more variable. So you should always make sure you are defining a data object with reference to this type, whatever the type we are using here. Okay. Importing parameters and exporting parameters, both types should be compatible. It is very common error when using function modules that they are going to pass invalid types. If it is date type, we should not pass time type. If it is date type, we should not pass some character data. So always go to the function module and check what is the type they are using. So in your program also use same type. For parameters we have used the same type, right? Type date, right? Similarly, you have to use same type in the for the exporting parameters as well. Type T, sorry, not TP, right? What is the other parameter in export which is returning the output? Earliest, type C, lv underscore type C. I didn't find any length. Okay. Now pass these parameters here, lv underscore days, lv underscore time, lv underscore earlier, right? Now how many exceptions we have? In exceptions, invalid date time and other. So when invalid date time is raised, what is the sub-RC value? Sub-RC equal to 1. When invalid date exception is raised. When the other exceptions are raised, sub-RC value will be 2. If there are no exceptions, sub-RC equal to 0 if
Zero.
there are no exceptions. Okay, clear? So you can handle the errors in the calling program using sy sub-RC values. Okay, depends on the exception number, sub-RC value will be represent that number. Okay, clear?
Yes, sir.
If sub-RC equal to 0, that means no exceptions. Then display the output. Okay, else if sy hyphen sub-RC equal to 1, what does that mean? Invalid date format, right? Type E will raise the error. Okay, for others 2, else if sub-RC equal to 2, other error. Now observe very carefully. P underscore time is unknown. What is the parameter we defined for P underscore time? Check. Okay, it is inactive. The include program is inactive. That's why it is not able to identify those parameters. Activate this include program and go back. Check the syntax. So it is accurate now. Now observe very carefully. I'll keep the breakpoint here. Execute the program. Provide the input. I'll provide the date, start date 01/02/2023. and I'll provide some time 0 1 10 some 10. This is the time. Execute, enter the date. Did I take type D? Which one I have taken for? Okay, sorry. This is time. For time it is T, right? Change the parameter as T. Go back and execute the program again. I'll just change it. Time type. Okay. Now execute. Now observe very carefully. What is the parameters we have? Date, time. These are for starting date and starting time, and this is current date and current time. SY datum, SY UZDIT. It represents the current system time. Okay. Current system time and current system date. Now if I click F5, what will happen? Observe, it is for debugging. I'm explaining about debugging. If I click on F5, what will happen? What is the use of F5?
line by line.
F5 is for line by line, right? If I click on F5, it will go inside the function module and execute it. It will go inside the function module and execute it. What is F6? Function by
By
function.
function.
Function by function. If we click on F6, what will happen? It won't go inside the function module, but it will complete the execution in one step. It will complete the execution in one single step. It won't go inside the function module. If we click F6, when you are writing the normal statements, right, we cannot find the difference. F5 and F6 works in the same way. But now you can observe the difference. If you use F5, it will execute line by line. But if you use F6, it will execute function by function. It will execute the function in a single step and provide the output. Okay. Press F5. Now it entered into the function module and it will execute line by line inside the function module. If you press F5. Now we are inside the function module, right? Now we are inside the function module, right? Now I don't want to debug further statements, but I want to complete the function module execution. I want to complete the function module execution and go back to my program. Now which key I need to press to complete the execution of this function module and go back to our main program? Which key we need to press?
F7, sir.
F7. If you press F7, it will complete the current execution and take you to
Return
the
the program.
main program. Since we are in the subroutine, since earlier we are in the subroutine, right? So it came out of that subroutine to the main programs, to the main function module. Now press one more time, F7. It will take you to the main program. Okay. Now it will return the output. Let's execute one more time. I'll use go to statement to go back to the previous execution line. Keep the cursor here, right click, go to statement. Now instead of pressing F5, I'm executing one more time. Instead of pressing F5, I'm pressing F6. Did it enter into the function module? No, right? It completed the execution in a single step and provided the output. Clear? Is everyone clear? Let me go back to the statement again. This is very important to understand. F5, F6, F7 and F8. So what will happen if you click F8? When we go for F8, when we want to complete the execution of the program. Okay. If you want to complete all the execution of the program, you go to F8. Let me execute again. Now I am pressing F5. It will go inside the function module. Okay, it's taking time to execute. So F5 will execute line by line, F6 will execute function by function, F7, when you go for F7, when you want to come out of the function module to the main program, okay, when you stop the current execution, it won't stop, but it will complete the execution and come back to the main program if you press when you use F7. But what is F8? F8 will complete the execution in single step, right, including function modules and the program, everything. Okay, but F7 is used to come out of the function module when you are inside the function module. Okay, practice these steps. Okay, keep the breakpoint and practice this. These are very important. See, most of the projects will be on support roles, so you need to be very perfect in the debugging when you need to work on the support projects. Even in implementation projects also, if you know the debugging, if you know how to debug the program, right, it will be very helpful for you to survive in any project. Now we are inside the function module, but I don't want to execute it further. If I press F7, what will happen? It will take me to the main program. If I press F7, it will complete total program execution. If press F7, now I am in the main program, right? Calling program. Now again now again execute the same. Go to statement, press F5. Now if I press F8, what will happen? I am pressing F8. It completed the program execution.
Execution.
Okay. Is everyone clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So practice this. Debugging is very important. Debugging is very, very important. Please practice debugging. Every program, debug like each one of you, you have to debug every program. Whatever the program you create, whatever the function module you create, debug it. Keep a breakpoint and check how it is working. Okay. Understand the difference between F5, F6, F7 and F8. When we use F6, when we use F7 and when we use F8. Okay. So tomorrow in the next session, we'll create custom function modules and call it in our programs. Okay. We'll also modularize our existing programs, whatever we created on purchase orders and sales orders using function modules. Okay. So the important interview questions from the function modules: types of function modules, regular, remote enabled or RFC, and update function module, right?
Yes, sir.
And different parameters, import, export, changing, and how to raise exceptions, right? So these are all important interview questions.